Well, welcome back to my playthrough of Subnautica, and we are going to try and make ourselves a fragment analyzer so that I can make a Seamoth. So, what do we need for a fragment analyzer? Well, ultimately what we need is a sea base. So for the sea base, I need one of these builders, which really just requires a computer chip and a battery, and that's easy to get. So let's see what we need for the computer chip. We need a jeweled disc, 2 of them, silver ore, and quartz. Well, that's actually pretty easy. We know where to get all of that. So, let's head off and see if we can't find some silver and some jeweled discs. So these are the jeweled discs here. They kind of look like they're bits of coral. I don't know. Just hack at them with your knife, and a whole bunch fall out. Grab. There you go. 4. I got 4. Did not mean to pull out my air sac. And actually, before I go out there, I'm going to cook that hoverfish. In earlier versions of the game, cooking fish required salt, and you ran out of salt very fast. The game just depleted. It was ridiculous. If you found salt in game, that was the only thing that you cared about, was I need to get the salt. Now you can cure food with salt. So right here, hoverfish and salt. The advantage of curing food is that it won't rot, and so you can store it indefinitely. Whereas these cooked fish do rot, and you cannot just store them forever. So be aware of that. If you're not traveling too far from a fabricator, then you might as well just cook food. But if you feel like you're going to be out in the water for a while on your own, it may be a good idea to bring some separate water and cured fish. So let's see what we got in here. Copper, alright. Titanium. Titanium is always a good thing to have. It's very common, and you'd think that really there's not much point in it after a while, but almost everything you build is going to require a little bit of titanium, at least as far as structures, submarines, and things like that go. So really, you're never going to run out of use for titanium. Which is why I feel fine with collecting a whole bunch of it. Alright. So if you watched last time, you know that there's copper out here in this kelp forest, and that there's silver here in these grassy plains. And, if you watched last time, I said that the old version of this game, the last build, didn't display a lot of the assets. And one of the assets it did not display was this grass. And it was just so disappointing. Because there was nothing out in these grassy plains. There was just red texture on the ground, and it was terrible. But now you can see that, all the grass. And I'm also standing, or floating, I guess, above this little anemone-looking thing. And every once in a while, it puts out bubbles of air, which Sonic the Hedgehog style you can use to restore your oxygen. There are a few of them scattered here and there throughout the game, mostly in the safe shallows and the grassy plains, and they're very handy. They will allow you to stay down underwater for much longer, and they do always exhale their bubbles at a rate high enough that you won't need to surface if you're near enough to one. Oh, little spike plant shooting at me. The further you get away from the safe shallows, generally speaking, the more dangerous things get. Yep, there's a bone shark. Bone sharks are aggressive, although they're not really as aggressive as some of the creatures in the game. I keep finding gold, but I don't want gold. I want silver. You don't always get what you want out of these limestone chunks. Bone shark again. Also, we might see some reefbacks. Reefbacks are some of my favorite creatures from this game. Oh, I hear one. There they are. There are some reefbacks. These things are enormous. I'm going to get closer and you can see how big they are. I mean, you can barely keep them in frame when you get close. They are just huge. If you look at the concept art, they seem to have actual reefs on their back, hence the name. And so I'm hoping that in a later build, there will actually be kind of a mini ecosystem up there, and fish swimming around them, and all that. And to be honest, sometimes these guys can be a little scary. They're completely harmless, but they're just so enormous, and sometimes they're diving down and they loom out of the deep, and you just get this kind of primal fear of these gigantic, mysterious creatures looming out of the water. Spadefish, one of the best food sources in the game. And look at that shadow. It's just enormous. I love the reefbacks. And I think it speaks a lot to the care that the developers have for this game, that there's actually... they've made assets for this game that actually can evoke an emotional response from me. I actually feel this kind of sense of awe looking at the reefbacks, and sometimes they actually give me this kind of deep-seated fear of the unknown lurking out of the water. And I hope that as more biomes come out and more creatures are released, that they will continue with that level of care with creating their creature assets. And why is it so hard to get silver today? So right there you saw some asset loading, and that is still a bit of a problem for the game. It's not great on its draw distance. The terrain does not load perhaps as soon as it should, and a lot of other things like actual in-game items won't load until even later. So, still early build, early access. I think it's technically an alpha, although nothing really says alpha, so I don't know if they're just not calling it alpha, but whatever it is, it's still very much a work in progress, and I figure that'll probably be fixed eventually. Titanium. Man, I'm having really bad luck with copper. I might actually have to call this episode before I even find any. Or no, I'm looking for silver. What am I talking about? I have great luck with copper. I have plenty of copper. Just no silver. And actually, I'm also going to get a coral chunk. So to get a coral chunk, find one of these big coral tubes, or another piece of smaller piece of coral, and just hack at it with your knife. And that will let me get bleach, so I can make disinfected water, which is plus 30 water.
30 seconds of oxygen remaining.
Now, if you run out of oxygen, you actually do have a few seconds to get to the surface. You won't be able to see, though. The screen will black out as you, I guess, start to black out. And you will have to just hope that you're going in the right direction. When that happens, I recommend being already staring straight up at the screen, or sorry, straight up at the sky, and to use the spacebar and W to just push yourself towards the surface as fast as you can. Right now, this game doesn't really implement anything like the bends or increased oxygen use at during periods of physical exertion or anything like that. Your oxygen is basically just a countdown timer, and you can descend or ascend really at whatever speed you want. So, it's not really a diving simulator per se. Oh, here comes the bone shark. Get out of here. Yeah, the bone sharks actually seem to get more aggressive at night, and I believe that that's actually a real aspect of the game, that they do become more aggressive at night. But I still need silver, so I'm going back down. Even if the bone sharks are going to attack me, which they will. Okay, we're gonna get silver. There we go, silver. Alright, so now I can head back and actually make a computer chip. So once you have the builder, one of the most important things that it can build for you is a sea base. And a sea base is an underwater habitat you can build basically anywhere in the game. And once you build it, you can create a power generator for it, you can put a fabricator in there, and most importantly right now, you can put a fragment analyzer in it. So when we get a fragment analyzer, then we can start doing things like researching the Seamoth blueprint. In earlier builds of the game, there was a fragment analyzer in the escape pod, and you got through the tech tree much faster that way. I don't know if their plan is to bring that back, or to keep it the way it is, but just be aware, you won't be able to build many of the things in the game just with the escape pod. So here we go, computer chip. So, hold on. So we still need a battery. Alright. Well, I've got plenty of copper, and all it takes for a battery is 3 acid mushrooms. So, here we go. Got a battery. And a builder. Some of these menus aren't always incredibly intuitive. For one thing, some of the things under machine and some of the things under tools, I'm not sure exactly why one is in which. I guess it's just that tools are all held with one hand? Maybe? I don't know. It's not an entirely coherent system. So most of the things that you're going to build with the builder are going to require titanium as their primary ingredient. So when you go out to start your sea base, you're going to want a lot of titanium. Alright, that's as much titanium as I can make. Well, I think I'm going to leave the building of a sea base for next time. That's it for me. Thank you for watching.